Well, I'm Doug Gottdiener, and my son was having some struggles in school since in kindergarten, first grade, it didn't come easy to him as far as reading. And in second grade, there was some issues regarding just focusing in class, things like that. But the teacher was really aware of it. I was a second grade teacher, so was she. And so she was really attentive to that. But we went ahead and did the district's testing for ADD, and that came back negative. It was ironic how careful the two of us were in terms of the plot matrix of whatever was dual. It was a matching set, the teacher's observations and ours. One issue was that he was very uptight during reading, very tense, and the psychologist studying it noted perfectionism was a trait that was of concern to him, but didn't really have an answer for it. And so we just continued to go through school, and again, reading continued to be a struggle. It was not his fun subject at all. Ironically enough, though, I read him The Hobbit when he was 5. He completely understood the story, and he made this statement as a kindergartner, "Dad, you know that guy who wrote the book?" I said, "Tolkien." He goes, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I think I know what he was doing with Bilbo. He was having him go through all those things, all those monsters he fought and all those experiences he had to get him ready for fighting the dragon." So here's a kid who's, 5 years old, patient enough to hear the entire story as I read it to him, which is a 300-page novel, understands the interplay of the characters. We would interact every night as a little story, a bedtime story. And then at the end of it has this analysis of character. And yet physical reading of text is difficult for him and becomes unfun. So I'm seeing his joy of reading not happening. And I'm wishing that would be for him, but everybody's different, and I'm just taking that in stride. Well, along comes 7th grade, and his teachers were always carefully looked at and scrutinized, by my wife. And he'd always had pretty good teachers, and a couple times he didn't. We homeschooled him for a year or so and made those adjustments as necessary for him. Well, he ended up having a really difficult 7th grade, and so everything kind of came to a head. And we ended up just saying, you know what, we've got an issue here, we need to take a look at it. And my wife and I were having intense conversations about his learning and about his struggles, and it was just causing a dynamic in the home that was very unpleasant at that point. I mean, I know junior high is a difficult age, but this was something beyond. And so we ended up learning about David, and from then it was a pretty good experience as we went through it. We came in for an assessment, and he put Benjamin through a little battery of determining what he called disorientation, and was able to see that Benjamin was struggling with being able to attend to print and being able to actually know where that print would stray at times in his own writing, or just in some reading drills and things. And we were able to kind of see that and go, well, that makes sense. And then I remembered, yeah, as late as 2nd grade, he was doing some reversals for the letter B and P, common confusions, but by 2nd grade, they're usually cleared up, and he was still struggling with that. Well, in the text that he wrote as a 7th grader, he was forming the letters in that same kind of confused way. He knew them, he knew where to put them, but David was able to show us how he had to give it a second thought, a double thought. And then he explained what visual disorientation for a dyslexic can be. And the epiphany kind of happened, and it was this aha moment of, okay, dyslexics think in multidimensional pictures. They're visual learners, as Benjamin had always been. He'd always been very kinesthetic and very visual, and very interpersonal. It's his strength. He can see people and relationships and how they work, as he was able to do with Bilbo and the Hobbit as a kindergartner. Well, he ended up realizing, and that whole idea of perfectionism, the whole idea for a dyslexic is they're not comfortable unless they have mastery of everything that is visual. And so he had to be able to have mastery of not just regular objects that he would read in text, like couch that would form a picture in his head, or bird, or ball, or swimming, and he'd have a picture for that, but words that had non-representational pictures. So where a typical reader could do 3 to 5 frames per second visually in their brain, a dyslexic can do 25 to 30. Their brain's on overdrive, hence the ADD symptoms, but not actually being ADD. And he ended up having this wonderful realization of, okay, I'm a visual learner. My brain's not slow, I'm fast. And it's working on overdrive, and it's working on overpower. And realizing that dyslexics are actually gifted, not slow, they're gifted. They're working at an accelerated rate of brain power. And they just need to know how to control that and channel that and master that. Not being a control person, but being able to relax. And so David was able to teach him orientation, what we would call our mind's eye, how to put it on his shoulders or behind his head and really be able to be at rest and be able to have a focused journey through education and through books. And obviously audio books help, but David really took him through, which to me at first, being an educator, was kind of a different approach. I thought he's learning the alphabet, but yes, he had to learn the alphabet because it didn't have a representational picture. And David showed us how a word like cat could be perceived in 3-dimensional objects by the dyslexic around and behind the letter A, upside down, as that mind's eye could literally float around the shape and come up with 40 different representations for the word cat. Where you or I would not do that, the dyslexic who is not able to control their dyslexia would do that, and it's called disorientation. Bringing him back into focus, making him aware of it, and one of the coolest things he ever said was, I feel the way, after he went through the therapy where he learned the lowercase and the uppercase letters of the alphabet and learned what orientation felt like, he came home and he told my wife, he said, I feel something I haven't felt since I was 4 years old. And I realized he's been in an environment of print at school that has made him feel not normal for that long.
In 7th grade, so like junior high, I was getting like a few C's and like F's mainly, just like failing, not doing very good. And then once I went through the program with David in 8th grade, he taught me how to like orient myself and stuff. So my grades rose like C's and B's and a few A's. And then things just got like easier so I could understand them more. After the program, I was able to like relate to my parents better, because like when I would be disoriented or just like distracted when I'm not totally focused, it was like it would make me mad. So I was able to once I went through the program with David, I was able to have a better relationship with my parents, because it was like all the built up anger and stuff went away. So I was able to just relax and be myself.
Before, where he would actually be struggling and getting the lower grades, like the below basic, and being frustrated about that, at the beginning of the school year, he was bringing home A's and B's. And then he, of course, being in the high school dynamic, chooses where he wants to focus his time, and then we help him with that. But he's got the capacity, he's got the skills, and he has definitely demonstrated that he can maintain the grades as he chooses to.